think on the list that should be here is here. So, okay, maybe if I just remind everybody that the public section of the meeting will be recorded and published online for public access after the meeting. So can I request that all attendees switch off their camera and mute their microphone when not speaking? The camera and microphone should only be switched on when you're invited to speak. I'll now hand over to Mr. Orchard to advise of the members participating today and for all members to confirm their attendance once their name has been announced by Mr. Orchard, so that it's clear in the recording of the meeting and can also be recorded by Mr. Orchard for the minute. So Mr. Orchard, would you like to do the roll? Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. I think everyone is here, but we'll just do a roll call as you mentioned. Convener?
Present.
Vice Convener?
Present.
Councillor Bolton?
Present.
Councillor Jackie Dunbar?
Here.
Councillor Grant?
Present.
Councillor Houghton?
Present.
Councillor McCrae?
Present.
Councillor Alex Nichol?
Present.
And Councillor Yule?
Present.
Okay, all present and correct. I'll hand back to you, Convener. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orchard, and thanks to the members for getting together so promptly today. We have to determine the urgent business, first of all. So we have one item of urgent business, which is item 3. Can we agree that it's urgent and we take it today?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you for that. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest?
No.
No, I'm not seeing anybody indicating. Okay, thank you. That then takes us on to item 3, which is COVID-19 move to level 4 report. Any questions from members? Yes, Councillor Dunbar.
Thank you, Convener. It was just to ask what the difference is between the powers currently held by the DERCs and what's being proposed today. I've not had a chance to go and find that out myself, so it would be nice to get that.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. I'm aware that there wasn't a lot of time for people with the papers being released and the meeting being held. I'll bring in Mr. Bell to just answer that question, Councillor Dunbar.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, the Duty Emergency Response Coordinator has the powers to make a decision on behalf of the Council, and they tend to be used when time is of the essence and we're perhaps out of hours. But as we've seen over the course of the summer, the powers have been required on a regular basis. But now that we've got the committee structure up and running and has been since August, what we're trying to do is any decisions that are required at short notice to take those to the Urgent Business Committee for the determination where time allows. However, we're recognising that over the Christmas period, there could be some logistical challenges in calling Urgent Business Committee, particularly at short notice and particularly when a number of colleagues are perhaps on leave and unavailable. And so what's been proposed today is that during the festive period and the dates specified in the report, that if any action is required to be taken by the Council and it doesn't fall within a delegation of a Chief Officer, that the DERC goes and makes that decision on behalf of the Council, but only following consultation with the members set out in the report. So it's a slight change in emphasis in that rather than call a UBC in the first instance, that the DERC makes the decision, but only following consultation with the relevant members set out.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Bell. Are you content with that, Councillor Dunbar? Do you have any follow-up?
I think so. I think what I'm getting from Mr. Bell is that the delegated powers are still the same, but the way that they maybe go about doing things is going to be different. Is that what I'm getting from you, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, that's right. What we would seek to do is consult with the member specified in the recommendations. As it currently stands, there's no requirement to consult.
Thank you. For
Thank
that.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lumsden, you're next.
Thank you, convener. It's just to ask the officers, obviously the recommendation 2.2 is, it has to make a request. Well, we have to make a request to the Scottish Government for an additional closure. Really just ask the officer, is this really a sort of formality, and will we then be told of the outcome of that request?
Thank you for that. Ms Shepherd, do you want to answer that one?
Thank you, convener. Yes, it is a formality. I would expect if I made the request today that I'd actually have confirmation later on today as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Um,
Okay, I'm not, yes, Councillor Bolton, your hand's up.
It's just a quick question, and again, like others, I didn't get through all of the sort of attachment papers and links. Are we? I know that in England they're thinking about testing kids at school. Are we thinking of this?
Ms Shepherd, can you give some information around that testing aspect?
Thanks, convener. I know certainly if we go back to the strategic framework when it was published, there was certainly an intention at level 4 to be doing that. I haven't had any further detail on that at this point, but I believe there have been some test sites over the last couple of months to start looking at plotting a route through that.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to come back, Councillor Bolton? You can turn.
No, as I say, it was just to find out if that was going to be happening or not. Thank you.
Okay. Right, do we have any other questions or queries? I'm not seeing any hands up. Okay, we can maybe formalise then. You'll see that the recommendations are presented in the report on page 5. Are we content to agree? Councillor Nicholl.
Convener, with your approval, hopefully we can maybe move a very slight amendment to the recommendations and also to one part of the appendix. If I maybe take it in reverse order, the appendix at page 11 suggests that the townhouse should be closed except for committee meetings that are deemed to be essential. I'd respectfully suggest that we could do them all by teams one way or another, so the townhouse should simply be closed, certainly as far as elected members are concerned. And the second one is obviously in respect of 2.3. I have managed to get a form of words arranged with Mr. Bell, but essentially, rather than having co-leaders and conveners contacted, we would actually call an urgent business committee in the unlikely event that there was such an emergency. I don't know if you want to see what I'm suggested in writing. That would maybe help you.
Mr. Bell's got his hand up first of all. We'll maybe bring him in first.
Thanks, convener. It was just on the first point. We did have a discussion internally around the wording for committee meetings. We've left it the way it is at the moment because by law it's the conveners that make the decision around remote meetings. I don't think the UBC actually has the ability to determine that for conveners. But if it provides assurance to Councillor Nicholl, we'll certainly be reaching out to conveners to clarify arrangements for the committee meetings whilst we're in level 4 to confirm that they would be 100% remote. In terms of the second aspect and the slight amendment to the recommendation, as Councillor Nicholl says, I've agreed some wording in principle and have no issues with it.
Okay, right. I've seen a few hands going up and down here, so I'm not sure if they're legacy hands or people. So first of all, Councillor Bolton, is that a legacy hand or did you want to come in on this?
Apologies, convener, it was a legacy hand.
Okay, fine. Councillor Yule, your hand went up. Is it on this point or is it something else?
It's on this point, convener, and it was just simply, could Mr. Bell just confirm what he said, that it is the convener's choice by law as to how what format meetings are held in. My understanding, and I'm happy to be told I'm wrong, is that it is our standing orders that give them that power. And since this committee acts with the powers of the council, surely it would be competent, if it is an issue of only of standing orders, for this committee to agree that all meetings would be held virtually.
Okay. Mr. Bell, do you want to come back and clarify your previous
Certainly.
remarks and address the issues raised there?
Yeah, just for clarity, it is by law. It's very specific in that it's the convener that has the power, as opposed to the council through its standing orders.
Okay, that's fine for that clarification. I think that will help Councillor Yule. On that basis, Councillor Nicholl, your hand is still up. Did you want to come back on anything that you've heard there? Or are you happy for me to?
I just wonder, convener, given that most of the conveners are actually present in this meeting, if we could have the conveners actually agree they would wish to be online, and that would kind of negate the whole point. I can't imagine we're going to call an urgent business of audit, yeah, but if we did, I would certainly be online.
I think we have a difficulty with that because we don't have all the conveners present. So that's the first thing. Based on what I've heard from Mr. Bell, I think I'm content with the recommendations as they appear before us. There is that ability, you know, you've mentioned there about the standing down of services and indeed the townhouse. We've heard from Mr. Bell that the conveners have that ability to, you know, and that's why we, you know, the standing orders, you'll remember, were altered at the last meeting that we had around that, because the conveners have that ability. So I'm comfortable with that. I'm also comfortable with the wording that we've got for 2.3, because I think, as we've heard in the opening remarks, the reason that we brought this forward today is that we want to put in place procedures that will be able to operate over that festive period. The best way of doing that is by consultation, I think, with the co-leaders of the relevant convener and vice convener, rather than the urgent business aspect. So I'm going to formalise and move the recommendations as they appear in the report. Councillor Nicholl, do you wish to move an amendment in the terms that you've set out in your opening remarks?
Convener, I'll move the amendment in terms of the recommendation, and I'll accept Mr. Bell's sage words in respect of the appendix. So only obviously in respect of 2.3. Thanks.
So you want to move in 2.3 that an urgent business meeting would be held instead of consultation with co-leaders and convener and vice convener, is that correct?
Yes, I'd like to move the status quo. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lumsden.
Yeah, I'm happy to second you formally, convener.
Thank you for that. Councillor Nicholl, do you want to speak to your amendment? Do you have a seconder first of all before we bring that in? Do you have a seconder? Yes, Councillor Yule. So Councillor Nicholl, you want to speak to your amendment?
Thank you very much, convener. I think we're dividing on a very narrow point, and I think the narrow point, however, is an important point. All I am saying is that over the Christmas period, we should be putting in place the same arrangements as would currently be being applied, where we not within the holidays. Essentially, as Mr. Bell pointed out, since August, we've returned to committees and urgent business, as we've seen today. We got the papers an hour ago, and we've met in order to take an important decision. I think that can be achieved if anything were to take place over holidays. There is obviously the emergency situation that requires an immediate decision, and that would still be the case. I think this is simply saying that we have a situation whereby We could call an urgent business committee at very short notice. I can certainly put arrangements in place with my group to ensure that members are available, and I'm sure the other groups can. This is what we're paid to do, to lead the council and to provide leadership, and I think that's what we would achieve. I'll leave it at that for just now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholl. Councillor Yule, do you want a second?
Yeah, thank you, convener. Very happy to second Councillor Nicholl. I believe he did. He's covered, I think, all the key points. I would simply add that it's entirely practical for us to meet at short notice. One of the joys of Teams is that we can do that, and without any great difficulty. I think it's also important that if, as a council and as administration, you're serious about taking the whole council with you during these difficult times, it's more appropriate to use the Urgent Business Committee, because that includes members of the opposition, which of course, with the exception of the Audit Risk and Scrutiny Committee, the co-leaders and conveners do not. I hope we don't have to actually have either an Urgent Business Committee or, for that matter, any decisions taken with reference to the co-leaders and conveners, because nothing of that nature arises. But if it does, like Councillor Nicholl, I'd much rather that was done through an Urgent Business Committee to preserve the council's democratic structures and to ensure that it's councillors, all of us, who carry the responsibility for those decisions. Thanks, convener.
Thank you, Councillor Yule. Does anybody wish to enter debate? Not seeing anybody indicating. Summing up, Councillor Nicholl, do you want to add anything, given that we've had no debate around that? You help content?
I think the argument has been made, convener, so I'll simply leave it at that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholl. I'll just say a few words, given what we've heard from Councillor Nicholl and Councillor Yule. I think you're quite correct that the Teams does allow us that flexibility to come together at short notice, and I completely agree that councillors should be available to do that, you know, despite the festive break that we are about to head into, particularly given the situation that we all find ourselves in. However, the reason that we have brought forward the recommendation that's come before us is more around that officer core, because as we all know, even if a meeting can be called at short notice, it does require the support of officers to bring forward the reports and information, and indeed set up the situation to run the meeting itself. It was on that basis that it was determined to bring forward the recommendation that it would be a better course of action to put in place, that there could be consultation with co-leaders and indeed conveners and vice conveners of the relevant committees, should that be required over this 2-week period. And I think that is the right way to go, because I think we all do recognise that the COVID situation has led to officers right across the council having to work very long hours over the last 9 months in order to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the public in Aberdeen and indeed the duties that the council has. As a result of that, we are keen to try and make sure that as many officers as possible get the opportunity to have that break over the Christmas period, so that they have an opportunity to not just spend time with their families, but also to recharge their batteries so that they can come back in the new year. And that's why I will be moving the recommendations that we have in the report. I think that does allow us that democratic accountability to make sure that there is oversight by councillors, but also making sure that the maximum number of officers can actually enjoy that free time as well. So on that basis, we can go to the vote. Mr. Orchard.
Thank you, convener. The committee has a motion in the name of the convener and an amendment in the name of Councillor Alex Nicholl. Would members please vote motion or amendment? Convener.
Motion.
Vice convener.
Motion.
Councillor Bolton.
Motion.
Councillor Jackie Dunbar.
Amendment.
Councillor Grant,
Motion.
Councillor Houghton,
Motion.
Councillor McCrae,
Amendment.
Councillor Alex Nicholl,
Amendment.
Councillor Yule.
Amendment.
That's 5 votes for the motion, 4 votes for the amendment. The motion carries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orchard, and thank you to everybody who's attended today. I appreciate you coming together at short notice. And that does conclude the business. And just to, wish everyone a very happy Christmas. I hope that we will be able to enjoy the festive period despite the challenges that we have. So thank you to everyone who's attended today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.